founder and director of Pastor Rock, and let me tell you a little bit about him. He is originally from the West Coast. It soon became clear that God brought him here to establish an inner-city outreach program called Pastor Rock and meet his lovely wife, Becca. Pastor Rock has become an established basketball program in Syracuse. Nate also works here at Eastern Hills using his gifts and experience to help others love God and serve their communities. Would you welcome Nate Pena with me?
Good morning, everybody. So as Brian just said, I grew up in the West Coast, and we have everything in sunny California, from beaches to mountains to Hollywood to Disneyland. And now that I think about those things, I wonder why I'm actually here. But we grew up in California, and we had so many things to do, but often because I grew up in a poor, dysfunctional home, and I was just quite a knucklehead back then, the easiest and cheapest thing for me to do sometimes was get in trouble. And so I often found myself looking, in a hole and figuring out how did I get myself in this trouble. And so there was programs to reach out to a kid like me. There was athletic programs, the Boys and Girls Clubs, there was church programs, there was, troubled youth programs, all that I went to and participated in. And all of these programs usually had great people, activities, and events to keep me busy. They really never had my full attention, and they really never made that impact in me that I was hoping to get. It wasn't until someone made a personal investment in me and actually decided to journey with me along with me in my life where actually things started to make a difference. As I look back in my life, I can see where several individuals at different times in my life invested in me not only as people who loved Jesus, but as people who wanted to be there with me through those difficult times. I truly believe that there must be relational investments made to experience the fullness of a program. And that's one of the ways that I do my program, Pastor Rock. And I would like to just share some of those stories of how those investments were made into my life. One of the main investors in my life was by a guy named Sherman. Sherman was a high school youth leader at my church. Great guy. He had just recently retired from the NFL. He played for several different teams. He was a great guy, down to earth. He just had a special interest in me, and he would just kind of hang out with me, just listen to me whenever I needed someone. We played on the same flag football team. He was just a great guy to be around, and he just always wanted to be there. But he wasn't just a person who listened. He actually was someone who actually met me where I was at and was available to me when I needed him. I can remember one evening when I was about 16 years old, and my mom and her boyfriend had come home drunk, as they normally would. And I remember getting into this argument with him. His name was Vern, and I was like, just about their behavior and their activities. And I remember the next thing I know, we're arguing. He pulls out this stun gun and is trying to shock me with it. And, I considered myself to be a big, bad, tough kid. But as I was looking at the electricity going back and forth and the little gun, I thought this is probably not a battle that I'm going to win. So I kind of quickly retreated to my room, and I called my boy Sherman, and I said, hey, this is a situation. I need you to come down. He came down immediately. It was the middle of the night, didn't even ask. He just came down. And at one sight of my mom's boyfriend looked at him, and I think he decided the same thing. This was probably a battle he wasn't going to win, and he ended up just taking off. And so, not only did Sherman kind of come in and provide, a resource right then and there, he also offered to take my brother and I in overnight so that things can settle down at home. And it just was really, he was just there for me and my brother at that time. And, although our relationship only lasted for about a year, because of his genuine interest and authentic involvement in my life, he made a significant, long-lasting impact on me. And because Sherman took the time to invest in me and walk beside me through the junk I was dealing with, I now know the value of this investment and know the difference it can make. Someone once shared with me that there's two ways to teach someone how to swim. You can either be on the edge and shout out directions to somebody, or you can jump in the pool with them. And Sherman was definitely the kind of guy that jumped in with me. So how does this story connect to now? Well, as many of you guys know, I run a program called Pastor Rock, which is an outreach program to guys in the city who play basketball. One of the kids that I have known, his name is Zakeem. And Zakeem has been around for the last few years. He would come to every event I had. He would, come early. He would stay and help me set up. He would stay late and help me clean up. And he just was always around, good kid. And we started to hang out afterward, after the program, and I would see him outside of Pastor Rock in his own environment. And we would just talk about how excited he was about his future of, rapping and music producing and even actually getting his degree. And so we quickly became friends, and he quickly became a leader and a core kid in our group. Well, about a year and a half ago, he was involved in a case of mistaken identity, and he was shot several times in his lower back, almost dying. And I remember getting a phone call one evening, and it was Zakeem, and he was saying, he had told me this situation, and I couldn't believe it. And he had said, hey, can you come visit me at the hospital? And I'm sure, no problem. Well, unfortunately, I had no idea the difficulty it is to see a shooting victim at Upstate University Hospital. You have to go through like Fort Knox to get in. They have aliases, they put them on different floors. I mean, it's just crazy. So I finally got in and finally was able to hang out with him and his mom, and we were able to just pray for one another. And I prayed for his mom, prayed for him, and just got to spend time with him. Because he survived the shooting, he needed to be transferred to Rochester for rehab, and they didn't have a secure facility for him here. And so they were concerned for his safety. They sent him to Rochester. And that was a topic of concern for the family because they didn't have any money, and how they're going to get to see him every day in Rochester. And so there was an apparent need that they had that I could help with. So I was able to arrange for the mother to be able to get to Rochester every day to visit with Zakeem, as well as some of the volunteers that we have with Pastor Rock who commuted to Rochester were able to stop in and see him and like drop off magazines, food, and clothing. But where this story gets really emotional and meaningful to me is that as I was walking out of the hospital room, I remember Zakeem saying, I love you, Nate. And this was especially meaningful to me because for two reasons. One, this is just not something guys from the hood say to each other. We don't go around saying, I love you to other guys in the hood. It's just not what we do. So I knew something was happening, and I was, whoa, okay. But I also had no idea the impact I had made in Zakeem's life until that moment. And I've known him for 3 years. We've hung out, we've spent time together. He's been in my home, been in his home. But I had no idea, because just being invested in his life, that impact was going on. When his life was on the line, he decided to call me. And in that moment, I realized that I had become Sherman in Zakeem's life. When we decide to walk alongside people in this way, relationships are formed that go beyond the surface of just a program. When we accept them into our family, see them in our community, and live life alongside them, it creates an environment where walls can be knocked down and lives are opened up to receive the love God has for them. Thank you.